podcast.
Right. Welcome, everyone, to Real People, Real Impact, the power of design thinking. Gio is on a well-deserved vacation today, so today it will just be me and my special guest. And today we have a true pioneer of design thinking in Europe with us. He is the founding director of the HPI School of Design Thinking at the Hasso-Plattner Institute in Potsdam, Germany's first D school, and the co-founder of the Global Design Thinking Alliance, or GDTA in short, which is a global association of over 40 members across 5 continents. And we're proud to say that Impact Week is one of those members. And what makes this conversation extra special is that our guest didn't start with design thinking at all. He was actually a pioneer in computer animation and games, and even developed an early 3D digital globe that helped lay the groundwork for what we now know as Google Earth. So we're talking about someone who was always ahead of their time. And in 2007, he made the leap into design thinking education, and the rest is, as they say, history. So, hello, Uli. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for spending this afternoon with us. A welcome from our Impact Week community.
Hello, Caro. I'm really happy to be a guest here at the Impact Week podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy. It's a bit unusual for us to be having this conversation in English since we're both from Germany, but I'm sure it's nice for all of the community to also be able to follow this conversation. So let's dive right in. Yeah, Uli, your background is a bit unexpected for someone who's a design thinking pioneer. What on earth how did that path from being like in computer animation to lead to being a co-founder of the HPID school?
I think looking back, for me, it's not too unexpected because if you are focusing on innovative stuff, which I did from a kid's time on, when I was in school, I was always interested in what is next, what is the most interesting right now, what is not discovered yet. So I was always moving in the art field, did music, and playing games for sure, and also in sports a little bit. But I was always looking for what is next, and so moving into 2D generation of pictures and being trained at the university or at the Academy of Arts in Munich. That was not for me. It was quite challenging and interesting, but it was not enough. So I moved into the field of computer animation, computer graphics quite early in the 80th of the last century. And so being front end at one thing, that this is moving towards something which we are calling now design thinking was kind of a natural path. At that time, when I moved to Hasso-Plattner Institute, it felt like, oh, I'm moving from a very different field from the film school, doing computer graphics, computer animation and teaching, moving to another school. So I stayed in teaching, but all of a sudden it was completely different. But it didn't, looking back now, it was a very, very precise path, but it was not a linear path.
Okay, sounds interesting. Yeah. I think it's sometimes very interesting how the things that we experience shape our way forward. Um, what did you learn from your time in computer animation, and how did that help you solve some of the biggest early challenges of building the D school?
To work, the interesting thing was at that time, there was pioneering work. Pioneering work means always you're not the only one. You're seeing others, and being in computer animation, computer graphics, and also in this kind of real-time 3D stuff, which ended up with the digital globe, with a 3D globe, and then later on with Google Earth, that was moving into a field where you had to deal with programmers, with artists, with music people, with architects, with all kinds of different people. So this kind of natural being together with different disciplines and trying to get something out of that, trying to
Mhm.
generate something new, the product, that also required new processes. And at that time, we didn't we didn't actually, when I remember back in the times we did computer graphics, computer animation, working with Art and Com, a company or association at that time, I was involved with, we actually were practicing what we now call design thinking, but we didn't have a term for that. So we had so many different people together. We had to think of new ways to collaborate because the
Mhm.
whole IT field was a new one. So how to deal with that? How to deal with characters and numbers and coding and bring that together and combine it and do something like a film, produce
Mhm.
pictures, produce 3D worlds with that. You always need different expertises. So when I did the first steps into the D school at Stanford, 2007, together with Hasso Plattner, I was spending a time there. My first weeks there, I had the feeling, wow, I move into something which feels very familiar to me, but now I have a name for it. It's, they
Amazing.
named the process and they made the process this kind of creative, innovative process. They they named it and they also structured it in a better way. So we were kind of experimenting in the 80s, but it felt very, very familiar, actually.
It's interesting that you say that because I feel like a lot of the learners, I feel like design thinking is quite intuitive in the way it's explained, and we've probably all used it subconsciously in some context. But it does make a lot of sense to say that it helped you kind of put like a little bit more structure into the creative process of creating something new. Is that something you could say, or?
Yeah, yeah. There was all of a sudden they had some they had a they had a structured way how to bring the people together. This kind of strict timing with a gong and with a time timer and this kind of stuff. This is what we didn't have in our process. We were just letting it flow somehow, and flow is actually a good term which came to me when I did the first steps among the student teams at Stanford. At that time, they were out of the barracks. So they started somehow illegally in 2005 in some barracks on the campus. And then with the investment of Hasso Plattner, they got the chance to move into a proper building. And it was still about 70 students, so quite small.
Mhm.
But so I went through those teams and I watched them and it was an incredible energy coming out of that. So they were so focused. And I knew they were from different disciplines. They were law students, mechanical engineers, designers, IT people, and so. And they were from different disciplines. You usually would think so they feel like they're in the school. They have to learn something. They have to listen. They have to look at the lecturer. No, they were actually collaborating very intensively. They didn't look left and right. They were very, very focused. And there was something like a flow to be to I could feel actually. I could feel that kind of drivenness, this kind of incredible energy. And that was the same thing happened yeah, half a year later in Potsdam. And I felt that this is the intrinsic value, this kind of intrinsic motivation of people trying to solve a problem, and
Mhm.
seeing themselves to be able to do that by joining forces. That was actually the first thing, and it was a kind of looking back now, in the 80s at that time, it was like, wow, now I see it kind of a compressed version of that kind of long-lasting thing and experimenting. Now you can bring it with the design thinking process. You can actually compress it. You can kind of use every time frame which is available for you right now. And if you structure the process right, if you have an hour, 10 hours, a week, or 10 weeks, or half of a year, if you structure the process right, you can be pretty sure that you have a very, very interesting outcome.
I love your enthusiasm. It really comes across. Staying on the topic of interdisciplinary teams, I mean, we see it at Impact Week as well, that there's people from all kinds of backgrounds coming together. What surprises you the most when you like see people experience design thinking for the very first time with different backgrounds? Is there different ways in how they respond to it, like a law student versus an IT student? Or do they all have kind of a similar reaction to going through the process for the first time?
There are for sure people who get lost more than
Mhm.
others. I think if you look at an architect, I think architects, designers, people from creative fields, they feel more comfortable, easier and faster comfortable with the design thinking process. But even if you look at a mechanical engineer or an engineer in general, so they somehow feel also familiar with the process, but those people are very well trained to come up with an idea before you have even outspoken the question. They have already an idea. For them, it's really tough to step back a little bit, to listen, to be empathic, to get an idea of what is really the case and what is that, and how to formulate the question before you jump into the answer. And there are others, but most of the so what my intention was when we started when designed the D school, it's also a designed process. It's a design space. When we designed the D school in Potsdam, my intention was to create a space which is where nobody feels immediately at home, but
Mhm.
everybody should feel welcomed. So
Okay.
and
Interesting.
nobody. So it's not to make us to generate a space where nobody is would say, "Oh, I own that. This is my
Mhm.
space. I know about it because I'm used to that." Now we are living in times. It's nearly 20 years after we started, we experience a lot of these spaces, and lots of companies, lots of organizations own those new spaces. So you feel
Mhm.
somehow you feel familiar, but the core thing is no discipline should dominate, no person should dominate the process. And this is why you have so carefully you have to design the not only the process itself, but actually the
Mhm. The
place,
space.
yeah,
Mhm.
the environment where people meet. Because with the environment, you can actually support hierarchy, or you
Mhm.
can support the opposite. You can support collaboration. And most spaces we are in right now, also in offices, in the work environments, most of the spaces, they are rather supporting hierarchy
Mhm.
and collaboration, if you look carefully.
That's yeah, sounds very intentional of how the space is created for design thinkers. And I agree, in the workspace, it's a bit more difficult. That actually brings me to the next topic, design thinking at work. Um, you just mentioned that a lot of people work in organizations that might feel a bit more hierarchical. What is your advice of actually bringing design thinking into a culture that may not naturally be open to it?
Like when we started after starting with the students in 2007, we were in the first year, we got already approached by companies. They were partnering with us, with the student teams, but they were witnessing something which was new to them. They were
Hmm.
asking us, can I send my executive team for a workshop? And we didn't have a program for that. So we were just focusing on students. But sooner or later, we did that. We started professional programs. And what the first thing what were learning is you need a new setup. You need a new setup for your people who are always, if you have a company, you have to deal with people from different disciplines, different expertises, and you usually bring them into their silos. And they are in their silos, they are happy because the technicians, they see all the technology environment, the financial people, they have their Excel sheets and all that stuff. And and so they feel very happy. But with the design thinking process, you get all those people into a new environment, and you want to have this kind of eye level thing. And the companies, one of the first learnings of the companies was that they usually don't have that kind of environments. They have a conference room, but the conference room is also usually stating hierarchy. So there is a conference table. There's not too
Hmm.
much of visualization possibilities, and there's not too much of teamwork capabilities or possibilities. So to rearrange this and to rethink how what can we do with our conference room? How can we redesign it in a way that it's really offering teamwork? If you have a group of 30 people, you want to break them down in smaller teams and have them work at the same issue, the same topic. And they were not
Hmm.
used to do that because they are used to distribute the work to the different departments, the specialized departments. But if you want to come up with new ideas, with really breaking ideas, then you need to get the power, the mental power of the people in an organization together. And we didn't have the processes for that. And design thinking is giving that to you. And then the next thing is the learning how to deal with those people, how to be empathic with all of them, and also feeling or get the or learning that you need a company, you need people to support that, you need coaches, you need additional people to steer and to coach gently the that kind of process. And that was all new for the companies at that time. They had consultancies and they were telling them what to do, but they usually didn't have people to help them to do the things on their own, to really
Hmm.
move forward and then kind of gently move out of the process. And this was our philosophy. So we are trying to see ourselves, and this is still my philosophy with design thinking. You are an enabler. You can enable people to do things they're not used to do, but they need definitely. And most of the participants, they are immediately getting this as soon as you are in that process and you see what it does to yourself, how what kind of parts of your brain are all of a sudden in action. You didn't know that you have those parts in your brain. Then you realize, oh, we should do this more often. We should do this on our own, and we should really train ourselves to be in a different mode. Yeah, that is what I some of my learnings.
Hmm.
It was always so rewarding to see this and to get the feedback from people. Hey, we were coming up with great ideas, and there is a new product now. We redesigned the process or a service in a proper way that we get positive feedback from our customers.
Hmm. I think it makes so much sense to involve the people in the company as well to in processes like this because they're the ones actually doing the groundwork and working with the customers and understanding it way better than any consultancy could from the outside. And I think you just perfectly described kind of like one of the credos of design thinking, which is people, process, and place. And I think all of those three things need to be there to implement it successfully and to maybe also have, yeah, of course, the support of higher ups. But I think you can also already implement a lot of design thinking modules in your everyday work. I think that's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be something that's company wide. You can start implementing it in your team already. So thank you for those insights and
And
the
again,
learnings.
it was and coming back to what we discussed earlier is design thinking, and that was very clear from the very beginning. Design thinking is not rocket science. Design thinking
Hmm.
is what some people do by heart anyway, you know, for years already. So they know that this is a positive way of doing things. An architect, for example, architects are working like design thinkers forever. They are doing this. What they are doing is bringing people together from different disciplines, orchestrating a process in a way that from a sketch, from an early sketch, through a model, through a wooden
Hmm.
model, through a 3D model, through an interactive model, until the big building is there, they are using intuitively design thinking since a lot of time because they are also focusing on the person that they are building for. So, and it's a
Hmm.
big difference if that person is an individual family and building their home, or it is the mayor of a large city building a bridge or building a
Hmm.
large office area. And it's so different. And so they're doing this by heart, but I have met so many people through the past years where would literally say, you are a design thinker, and they never heard about the term.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your observations. Do you think there is a gap between how design thinking is taught and actually practiced in the real world in companies?
Yes, sure.
Mhm.
There, there is a big difference. And that is something we were realizing from the very beginning, that because teaching, teaching is something where we are grown up, both of us, and also the people listening to us here. We are all growing up in a world where learning is not in the education field. Learning is not in the focus. It's actually education. It's a training of certain things, certain disciplines, certain activities, certain knowledge, which is brought to people through institutions, schools, universities, and others. And this process is not at all a design thinking driven process. It is a process which is delivered through the past century. It was further developed, but it was all grown in a pre-digital time. And we are
Mhm.
living now, and this is the very interesting thing with design thinking through the past 20 years. We are living now in times which are asking for a new pattern, for a new way of looking at things and processes and projects and learning. And learning changes significantly if you are using the internet, if you
Mhm.
have access to Wikipedia, and if you are accessing AI right now, which is kind of condensing a lot of the things we used to do in the internet, we used to do digital. Now we get everything in our hands. Everything you want to know, I can access with my piece of glass here immediately. I just have to type in to speak to the AI, and any kind of learning is changing significantly with digital and now with AI even more.
Mhm.
And the whole education system is still playing the analog world, is still playing that the separation of things is the most important, separating into different disciplines, separating into different departments,
Mhm.
separating people from each other, making people competitive instead of collaborative. This is
Mhm.
still the pattern of our education system, and that generates a thinking which is not adaptable in the digital world. This is why this is what I was pointing on with my book Network Thinking, which is not called design thinking, which was called actually
Mhm.
network thinking, because this is what I found out was the core thing of that kind of pattern change, the pattern shift from I call that the analog, the Brockhaus pattern. Every German understands immediately,
Mhm.
every older German understands immediately what it means, because that was the way how we aggregated knowledge in the encyclopedia, separating A from B, from C, from D, putting things in books. That was the only way how we could do this in the analog times.
Mhm.
But the digital times, they're asking for connectivity. Connectivity is key. Connect A with B and C. Connect the people in the organization. Connect the learning processes. Connect Department A with B and C and build bridges between that. And that is so easy. It was nearly impossible in earlier times. But
Mhm.
now it's possible, but our way of thinking is still trained not to do that, to be competitive, to think in departments, to think in hierarchical structures. And it's so interesting that with design thinking, you bring this kind of new thinking, not only theoretically to a group of people, but you practice it. You actually do it. You live it. And you all of a sudden see, hey, this is way more efficient than the traditional bullshit we were trained to do, even if it's the majority practicing that things. But if you learn how to be more efficient, better with your outcomes, more creative, faster, then all of a sudden you think, yeah, why didn't we do this before the last 20 years? No.
Mhm.
And this is something our education system needs to learn.
That is very true. I agree with you. I think humans are wired to also think in boxes, and it's always a bit easier to recognize patterns or to just follow something that's always kind of been the norm. So design thinking is definitely challenging for almost everyone in the beginning, but once you really get into the process, I think you learn to love it for what it is, and yeah, for the way you can collaborate with people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love what you're also doing with the Global Design Thinking Alliance because you're actually actively spreading design thinking all across the globe with the organization. You now have, like I mentioned, over 40 members. Can you give me the exact number? I think it was 42 last time I heard it, but it keeps growing.
I think it's to count. I think it's 42 now in I think 27 countries in 5 continents.
Amazing.
So we started it 2007 at 2017 at our 10th anniversary at the D School in Potsdam. At that time, we were looking back through the past years and we were saying, oh, we helped our friends in China to establish a D School. We are helped our friends in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, to start a D School. Our friends in Stockholm, in Cape Town. And those are all modeled after the Potsdam D School. And we help them to train, we help them to find the right people, to design the spaces. And and then we figured out, oh, there are more. There are other institutions around the planet also doing design thinking. So why? And is there any association or alliance? And there was no. There were a lot of alliances, and there are still a lot of alliances, but most of them are focused on one discipline. And they
Mhm.
are the alliances of people, of companies, of individuals, university structures, academic structures with different disciplines, and they meet globally. They have a global gathering, but a cross-disciplinary alliance we couldn't find. So we were saying, well, let's build one. Let's build the Global Design Thinking Alliance, and we started it at our 10th anniversary officially. Big bang with a gong and do. And it was great. It was, I think, 11 institutions from 10 countries, or I think it was already 11 countries. Yeah, so we had different countries.
Amazing.
And then we started growing. So there's no individual membership, it's only institutions can join. And it's a very, very vivid community. And I'm really happy that even after my time at the HBID school, I'm happy to head up the GDTA and to move it into the next generation now, which is for sure knocking on the doors since quite a
Mhm.
while, which is the combination of design thinking and AI in a proper way.
Could you elaborate more on that? What's currently going on in that space with AI, and how do the members of the GDTA also contribute to exploring that area a bit more?
I think all of the institutions are facing this.
Hmm.
And most of the design thinking activities joining forces at the GDTA, they are part of larger organizations, larger universities, and what you see if you are in a larger organization is that they have a hard time to adapt to to what is happening now with AI, and it's not just a little change. So
Hmm.
already the move from analog to digital was a significant change, and it was asking for a mindset shift.
Hmm.
But what is happening now with the move from being a digital organization towards an AI-driven organization, being a digital tools using individual to moving to AI using individual is even a way tougher step. And
Hmm.
if there was a mindset shift before, now we need to shift again. We need to move to think, to start a new thinking way of thinking. And this is an interesting challenge for the whole design thinking community because it's a
Mhm.
complex one. It's not an easy challenge. So, and the thing is that those larger organizations around a design thinking school, like in Potsdam, the HBI at the University of Potsdam is the large organization, and there is a little thing which is called the D School, the design thinking activity. The larger organization is having a tough time because they are focusing something or they are seeing something which is challenging their whole existence. And they are not, those institutions are used to be stable and to offer stability and to offer continuity and to offer a certain structure. Design thinking is not, you know. With the D school, you are constantly, there is no fixed curriculum through the past 20 years. It is a constantly, every semester changing, every semester reacting to what is happening right now in the society, what is happening now in technology, what needs are there. And so I see there's design thinking units in those larger organizations, and that is also true for companies, is those are the transformation engines, and they can be used as transformation engines for the transformation towards an AI-driven company, university, school, or team, yeah, if you break it down
Mhm.
to the smallest. And that is an interesting moment in time. And I love to see that. And I try to be involved as intense as possible because as you figured out, I like these kind of challenges, and I like to think a little bit in the future and to also support people in moving in a certain direction because lots of people get lost right now.
Mhm.
Lots of people are having the feeling, wow, there are so many new tools coming up and popping up every day. Every day I read the news about something. I stop reading about it. I just close down the whole information process. And this is not the right thing. So you don't have to jump on every new thing, but you have to pu push a little bit back, set yourself back a little bit, and look at it from a larger perspective, zoom out, and ask yourself what kind of processes am I using right now, which is still analog. I think we
Mhm.
are still seeing a lot of analog things in organizations. How can I move them into digital? And what kind of AI tools can support us to make the whole thing even smoother and better and easier to use and more precise and faster. And if you start looking at that, then you select certain tools and then you start working on that and start using that. And that minimizes the fear and that helps people to really get a get a grip on the whole thing, and not be like afraid.
Mhm.
And that is
So you would
something
say
the whole
that.
community needs to work on that.
Mhm.
Real people, real impact. Real people, real impact. Real people, real impact. Impact We, the Impact We podcast.
You would say that design thinking comes before AI, basically figuring out what does a company even need an AI tool for, or would you also say AI is relevant in the design thinking process, or
So
both?
it's both. Yeah, it's both. So what Uh, for example, if I look at myself, so I've generated with an AI, with an LLM, I have generated my own design thinking team since I'm most of the time alone now. I'm doing Zoom calls, but it's not like in the earlier times that there is a team around me. They have all the people and they have students. I'm so I generated my own design thinking team, and with every on AI and with every larger challenge, not the easy stuff which you can easily handle with chats. No, the more complex challenges, I always ask the team, and the team is a team of 6 people. They have names, they have different expertises, and I was also using the de bono hats because it's 6 people and we have 6 hats. So they have, and they're giving me advice, and we are in that kind of constructive discussion. So for the design thinking process, and also for the if you work as a team, for sure make use of design thinking in every step of
Mhm.
AI in the every design thinking step. Just make use of it, and no matter what tools are you using, but you can actually use it at every step in the whole process. And you can do things like I'm doing right now, generate your own design thinking team. And since I know that it works quite well, it works also quite well in the AI world. So, and and then if you have a unit in your organization which is experienced with design thinking, you have the best trained people to address this kind of transformation process your organization is moving towards or moving through right now, if you want or not. Uh, the technology is there. People are using that. Every person in a company usually is making use of AI. But how to orchestrate the whole process of a whole organization to move into an AI-driven organization?
Mhm.
I'm right now, I'm involved in Beijing, and I'm really happy that one of our members, the Communication University of China, which I know since more than 20 years now, even I met them in the times when I was still teaching computer animation, computer graphics. Uh, and they have a design thinking school in Beijing since 12 years now, and experienced design thinkers. They do training with students, lots of students who are running through there, way more than in Potsdam, because they have way larger numbers of students to deal with. So, and I proposed the president of that university. They have about 20,000 students. Um, it was 2024. We were sitting together at the 70th anniversary of that traditional school, and we were sitting at a dinner and we're talking about AI and what AI does to a university. And we were both very clear that it will change everything. It will change the way how we offer education. It will change administration. It will change the students' behavior. It will change the teachers' behavior. It will change the whole structure. It will probably also change the whole curriculum. It will maybe speed up. And we were both very positive in that. And that was the question. So how should we do this? How shall we run through that? And my proposal was make use of your D school. You have a transformation engine at your place. Right now, you're just using it for students. But why not using it for the administrators, for the
Mhm.
heads of the departments, for the people who are driving innovation in general at your school, developing the curricula? And he was saying, good idea, let's do it. And so I got involved for the next 3 years to kind of, yeah, to help them to support the D school to rebuild itself towards something like this kind of AI transformation engine. We redesigned the lab. It will be opened pretty soon. It's now the AIDT lab.
Mhm.
And it's a laboratory, and it's a place which is inviting not only students, there'll still be student training for sure, but it's open to all kinds of experiments, all kinds of AI-driven experiments for their different departments. And I'm sure it will change the whole thing in the next years. It will take a while, for sure. But because there's a lot of obstacles, there's a lot of people saying, "Ooh, this is dangerous. I'm a professor here for 20 years now, and where's my position in the future?" But we can involve those people into the process, and they are
Mhm.
not just confronted with decisions. And this is the idea, to make this a collaborative process and bring the bright minds of the people together, combine it with the bright AI, and generate something which we could call a hybrid intelligence laboratory, and make use of that,
Mhm.
in the best way. And I'm still pretty sure the school in 3 or 4 years from now will look very, very different than now.
Amazing.
But I don't know how. I don't know how it will look like. And this is what we need to develop together.
Is there any way that the listeners can follow this journey if anyone's interested in seeing how this can develop, or to see maybe if this could be also something relevant for their own institution? Is this learnings you share with the Global Design Thinking Alliance members?
Not right now, but this is the plan actually, to do something like a blog or put it on the website. Also, it's officially started. It will officially start in to about 2 weeks from now. But up to now, it's kind of hidden. So we didn't talk about it. This
Oh,
is the
we heard
first
it
time that I talk in
first.
public about it. Um, and uh, and I think um, we'll probably do a lot of mistakes. Yeah, we'll step through a lot of things where we estimating things happen and then other things happen, and that is a great learning for others. So I'm pretty sure, pretty positive that we start reporting as soon as we did the. There will be some reports about the start, and then we continuously report on the follow-up steps. And I hope to get in touch with a lot of people and to learn together with others how to do this properly, especially in the education field.
Mhm. Amazing. And I'm assuming that also every institution is a bit different, every culture is a bit different. So um, it hopefully is also highly adaptable to each context locally. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this plays out, and hope that I can follow this journey a bit more closely. Um, Coming back to the GDTA, um, one question that I have is, from your perspective, what does Impact Week bring to the GDTA network? What is special? We're one of the few non-profit organizations. Everybody else is an academic institution. So that in itself is a bit unique. But is there anything else you would point out?
Yeah, I was following what the Impact Week is doing since the very beginning. I think I really liked the idea very much, and there was a little bit of a cooperation also with the D School and Impact Week at some points. And I was really happy that when we started talking about membership of GDTA, that you were immediately saying, "Yeah, that's a great idea," because that was my wish, to have an organization which is bringing design thinking to different parts of the world, collaboratively with organizations at the place, also focusing on challenges which are not coming from the hot air somewhere, but actually from that place, and real life activities, and training people from different or professional coaches, kind of helping them to become even more professional, to gain international expertise. I think this was, for me, it was from the very beginning a very good concept, and it fits perfectly into the kind of global approach of the design thinking of the GDTA, the Global Design Thinking Alliance, because this is what our intention was from the very beginning. We were trying to bring people together who are like-minded, who are in a design thinking movement somehow, and who are already somehow professional coaches who are training hundreds or thousands of students, and bring that together and share, because design thinking is not a static thing. Design thinking is adapting, as we are discussing through the the podcast here with AI, with digital was the step. AI is the next step, and how to move on. And also, it was also for me, it was very interesting with starting the GDTA to see how different in different cultural context design thinking works in a different way. The
Hmm.
mindset stays the same, but the way how you do warm-ups, the way how you do prototyping, the space you were setting up is so different. And also hierarchical structures are different in different cultures. You know, you have to deal with different entities, and to start to do something, to do a workshop in an Islamic uh, country is different than in a more Christian country, in a Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern, and so. And you are experiencing that with the Impact Week all the time, you know, throughout the year. You are actively practicing and you are with your team enjoying this kind of differences and learning. Every Impact Week is probably a highly intense. I have never attended one, but I
Oh,
can
then it's about
imagine.
time.
Yeah, I think there will be the time. Um, and for me, it was a natural fit. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's
Thank you.
I, I I think we have a good chance now together also to kind of further develop design thinking criteria and to further develop the quality of coaching, quality of organizations, and we can do this jointly much better than each of us alone. So
I agree. Yeah. I think that's already a very natural overlap. I mean, now we have, for example, the African Nazarene University, that was a university introduced to design thinking through Impact Week 10 years ago. That's now also a proud member of the GDTA. We actually had a podcast with Rose Karimi. That was our first one, where she explained a little bit how Impact Week got started there and where it is now. And we're able to see her for the 10-year anniversary of Impact Week, just this February. And we have two more members that just applied. One of them got the news for the invitation recently, so they were really happy to get that. And then there's also the D conference that is happening in Coimbatore, where we will have an Impact Week just before that in India. So we're also trying to merge those two events or see how we can collaborate better. So I think there's lots of natural overlap, and I hope to intensify that a little bit more in the future as well.
yeah, I'm really happy that
Mhm.
that you now with having you on board, we can easily find new members in different parts of the world because you are kind of you are uh, you are the in Germany we would say the Trüffelschwein, yeah. You are the the truffle pig. I'm not sure if that is the right term, but you are really finding out where is the space which is ready to move into design thinking. Where is a school adapting to those ideas and so thanks to you, we got more members now in Africa, and we'll we'll start the African chapter of the GDTA beginning of June in Cape Town, and that is also, I think, part of it is the Impact Week impact of which we can now make use of. And also, I'm really happy that you made it in September of September this year to kind of attach the Impact Week to the kind of timely and even locally. It's not completely the same city, but it's close by. And with the Global Design Thinking Annual Conference in Coimbatore, where we have already also our first chapter, the first GDTA chapter with 4 organizations, and others are joining, hopefully also in September or before September. So it's great to see our cooperation working out quite well.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to more. Yeah. About Moving on from the GDTA, you're also the co-founder of another organization, and we already briefly brushed on what are the skills of the future. You mentioned AI and digital skills as one of them. So you're part of the Future Skills Alliance. What exactly do you guys do, and what are future skills?
Yeah, Future Skills Alliance, even if the term is German, was started in Germany. Term is English, not German. It was started in Germany in 2000, like 2 years ago. There was a large gathering of people in the education innovation field in Berlin. More than 4,000 people were dancing and singing and talking, discussing. It was a great gathering for several days. And there were so many little activities, so many little organizations from all over Germany, from our 16 lenders coming together, that at the end we were saying there is a large movement, but there is no alliance bringing those people together. Yes, there are conferences and festivals and so on, and all those people come together, but especially in Germany, we need a louder voice for all of those small entities. And so the Future Skills Alliance was started, focusing on things on not on education anymore, but on learning, and focusing on learning in the whole arena of learning, starting from kindergarten, school, university, also adult trainings, professional training. So we were looking at the whole chain, and we were saying the whole chain is driven by focus on education, but we have to refocus ourselves, and we have to refocus on what is learning nowadays and how does it change, and how can we help learners in the future to learn better, to learn more individually, to learn more focused, to learn more intensively, and how can we help organizations who are now feeling themselves like, or pretending to support learners, like schools, kindergartens, universities, how can we help them to redesign their own focus and to refocus on the change of learning? And
Mhm.
this is so we came up with the term Future Skills Alliance because we think it's all about new skills, a new skill set. It's not that
Mhm.
we are saying you have to do X, Y, Z, and you have to train 10 different skills, and then you are fine. No, for all of you who know design thinking, you know that design thinking is also not just one, two, three, four, five skills, but it's a skill set, it's a mindset, it's a whole cultural move towards
Mhm.
something else. And I think a lot of what we're doing and training with design thinking has intensively to do with future skills. So it's actually that kind of set, that kind of skill set, the mindset, the whole values system. You are looking at things, you are moving, you are driving processes. This is, you call that future skills.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of scientific work about that right now. There are lots of all around the planet future skills frameworks. So where the researchers try to organize those skills in a way and then make it also practical, bring it to organizations. And we want to bring those together, and we want to give people the support, teachers, educators, but also politicians in their decision-making processes for the future. In which direction should we move? So, what
Mhm.
is most important? And also to think about the core things we have to change. It is not about changing lots of things a little. No, it's more changing very few things radically.
Mhm.
And we can talk
Interesting.
about those.
That's a very interesting perspective. I think design thinking can help with that, but I think there's also lots of elements of design thinking represented, like problem-solving skills or adapting to environments, being agile, those kinds of things. What do you see are some of the future skills represented, or the ones that are most important that are represented in design thinking, and maybe even participating, for example, in an impact week? What can people learn on the go?
I think what in every design thinking process, what you can learn is empathy, how to
Mhm,
build up empathy, how to address, how to lose the fear to get closer to people and to
mhm,
find out about their needs and to really observe, try to understand properly, you know. Then what I think is very important to be acquainted with a process which is not a linear one, which is not a one where the outcome is somehow predictable. So and you get trained in the school and also university. You are constantly, most of the time, you are driven by things where the answer is already there. Somebody,
mhm,
usually the teacher, knows it. So, and it is written in some book, and you try to move into this direction and to be graded well. So, and in the design thinking process, that doesn't count anymore because you all know that the aim of what you're doing is in the dust. You know, it's not very clear. It is somewhere there, and you want to achieve something, but you only together you get to that place, and you are open enough not to give up and not to think, oh, we'll not end up with a good success. And this is what you have to learn. This is not what most people are trained. Then this kind of doing it again, coming up with a prototype. There's also something. So thinking in prototypes, thinking in not finished things, thinking in a way, thinking in something and in some portion of bringing the idea to life, which you then throw away because your next learning is, oh, it doesn't work.
mhm,
Being prepared to do that. So there's this kind of being open for failure. And failure is not something which will end up in a bad grading because grading doesn't play an important role anymore in the future. What we are doing right now with individual grading is we are nurturing individual competition. What
mhm,
is needed in the organization of the future is individual cooperation capacities and capabilities. And this is what we have to train. And with design thinking, you train this. You train to think in a team. You
mhm,
train yourself to listen to others and to kind of develop a language, also a visual language, with others from very different disciplines to communicate with each other and then to build things. Most of the people are not trained to build with their hands, to build prototypes, to be creative. Actually, every person is creative, but the creativity set is kind of is diminished, is moved down in the education process because you are focusing on one discipline and you want
mhm,
to be the best there. And I think there is so many things you can learn in the design thinking process, which we would call future skills. They are necessary. They are getting more and more necessary in a world where AI is playing a larger and larger role because that individual knowledge aggregation, which is actually the defining pattern of the education system right now, still, that's not necessary anymore.
mhm,
It's here. It's here. It's in the piece of glass. It's in the computer we are sitting in front of right now. It's there and it's easy to access with your language from your hometown. And you don't have to learn a new language. And this is what is changing in the next years, fundamentally how we look at
mhm,
learning. And this is why design thinking movement, the Impact Week, is on the right path and you can support wherever you are, you can support people with this kind of skill set and mindset. And that helps them for sure for the next years. That is necessary, you know. And I'm happy that we can do this together with the Global Design Thinking Alliance. We can bring future skills on a larger scale to a lot of places on the planet, and it will do something to the people. It will do something positive.
Everything that you told us today makes me really excited for the future, and that does not happen a lot in today's world, I have to say, with all of the global news. But I'm really grateful for this conversation and yeah, for your very positive and curious outlook on the future. I think that's very necessary, and we're excited to be a part of it in some way with the Future Skills Alliance and the GDTA and all of the future collaborations. I would love to finish this conversation with a quick fire round. So just very brief questions. There's just two options, or just one word. And yeah, one of the first questions is coffee or tea before a big workshop?
Before a big workshop, I try to get a glass of water, actually.
Always
right
thinking
now in
outside
the
the box.
podcast, I'm always having my tea, so not a coffee, but my nice Chinese tea.
Oh, yeah.
Before workshop, I prefer a glass of water. Sure.
Okay. Post-its or digital tools? Which ones do you use first? Or prefer?
That's a good question. So I have a Mirrorbot open here on my computer on the screen. And of course, I have some post-its on the table, and I think both work well, very, very well together. And even if you are the team, if you are in front of whiteboards, making use of post-its, first step to do, but then bringing everything into a digital world and work on that later. So I think it fits perfectly. This is what we learned with the pandemic.
Amazing. What is one item you always bring to a workshop?
If I can, as one thing is for sure is the time timer.
I knew it.
And but the other thing is, and I just went to a China store around the corner to get a new one. I didn't buy it; it was too large right now. But it's a gong, and best is a Chinese gong, a large one, but you can also simulate it on your smartphone. But those are the tools I think still are very, very important.
Okay, perfect. What is the most unexpected place you ever had a breakthrough idea?
I remember a recent unexpected place. That was my bed. Before Easter, I was at 12 o'clock at night. I was reading a book with lyrics of a nice German woman. She died in the 70th, last century, and I love her poems. And I started thinking of how would that poem, very short poem, how would that sound if a woman would sing that? Does that work as a song? And so I asked Suno, the music AI. I just copied the text and I asked Suno to play with a certain sound which I had in mind. So with the bass and some jazz instruments. And the first version it was producing after 2 minutes, it was so mind-blowingly good. I couldn't believe it. So I did one song. I did the next song. And at 2 o'clock, I had 3 or 4 songs. And through the Easter, I produced a whole album with 15 songs now. And I'm just discussing with the publisher to get the rights to publish it as a real album. I couldn't believe it. So that was my last experience. So having a very unusual place to come up with a good idea was just my bed.
And we're adding another skill to your list, aside from working in software and design thinking and AI. You now also are a music producer. Amazing.
Might be a new thing. I hope the publisher, the rights owner, will agree. Yeah.
And the last question: if you could run an Impact Week anywhere in the world, where would it be?
I think I have an idea. Actually. So the CUC in Beijing, they have in Beijing their main campus, and in Hainan, the south of China, the very far south, with nice palm tree beaches and so on. They have an experimental campus since a few years, very new. And I would love to see an Impact Week happening there, because they have a little D school there. I helped them to build it up, but there's not too much going on, and I'm pretty sure they will be thrilled if there's an Impact Week, if you bring people from all around the world, and if you do this in cooperation. So that would be my wish.
All right, then let's start planning. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. This was Uli Weinberg, the co-founder of the GDTA, founding director of the HPI School of Design Thinking, and co-founder of the Future Skills Alliance. Thank you so much, Uli, for spending the afternoon with me, for all of your insights, and for so much hope for the future.
Thank you, Caroline. It was great fun talking to you. And greetings to all the Impact Week fans.
Real people, real impact. Real people, real impact. Real people, real impact. Impact Week. The Impact Week podcast.